Crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Phone home.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Quest for Fire, released February 12th, 1982. It was written by Gérard Brach, based on the novel by J.H. Rosny Sr., directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud, and released by AMLF in France and 20th Century Fox in the U.S. In 1911, Joseph Henri Honoré Beau's novel, The Quest for Fire, was published in Belgium and credited to J.H. Rosny, a pseudonym he shared with his younger brother. The original title, La Guerre de Feu, literally translates to The War of Fire, and the film is a very loose adaptation at best. It took director Annaud 3 years of pitching the story around town before striking a deal with 20th Century Fox. Linguist Anthony Burgess, author of A Clockwork Orange and the creator of that novel's original language Nadsat, was brought in to develop special languages for the various tribes of the film, which he based on a combination of indigenous Canadian languages, including that of the Cree people and of Arctic Inuit dialects.
That's more work than I was really thinking happened here. I mean,
Yeah.
You could tell during the film that there's consistency in things that they're saying,
Right.
But beyond that, I'm surprised that they developed a whole language for it.
I was surprised that there were common words between the tribes since they don't seem to interact
Right.
peacefully. So it's weird that they would have gotten to the stage of sharing words with each other. Anthropologist Desmond Morris was employed to advise the movements of the actors portraying prehistoric man. The central tribe of the film are the Ulam, with less hair than apes but more than men, and distinctive protruding brows. Others include the Wagaboo, called the Waz in the novel, which are portrayed as more ape-like, the Ivaka, a mostly hairless and culturally advanced tribe, and finally the Kazam, a warrior cannibal tribe portrayed mostly by wrestlers.
Now, do these correlate directly to actual, hominid species?
Sort of. The Ulam and the Ivaka were intended as predecessors to modern Homo sapiens, and the Wagaboo and the Kazam are meant to exemplify branches of the now extinct Neanderthal line. Completely missing from the film are the novel's blue-haired men, which are obviously implied to have died off before present day since they're covered in a coat of blue fur and are described as four-handed, which I assume means that they had hands for feet and not that they had four arms.
Okay. Plus,
Otherwise, they're just straight up Na'vi.
plus, when I think of blue hairs, I usually think of old ladies.
Yeah.
It seems like a strange choice based on the fact that blue is not a hair color, and even
I mean, it can be, right?
Can it? Actually?
I mean, not bright blue, but kind of like bluish gray.
Am I thinking of blue animals that exist that blue is a very rare color
Sure,
in nature.
yes. No, I
in fact,
agree.
most things that we see are blue are not actually blue.
Yeah, because we killed off that tribe a long time ago.
There you go.
The production split shooting between the Scottish Highlands and Tsavo National Park in Kenya, once home of famous man-eaters The Ghost in the Darkness. Ron Perlman was excited to have been brought in for the audition, but mentions in his memoir, Easy Street the Hard Way, that everyone else auditioning was horrendous, and he realized they were looking for a very specific type. Before this film, caveman cinema was almost exclusively schlocky drive-in fare, and Perlman saw no reason to expect this would be any exception. As a result, he was not especially nice to director Jean-Jacques Annaud at the start of production. But Annaud was mostly amused by the actor's gall, and by the time production wrapped, they had become good friends.
Obviously, because he brought him back for Name of the Rose.
Yeah, and Enemy at the Gates.
But I'm sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this this statement. So Ron Perlman came in thinking this was going to be a joke, or what?
Well, he thought it would be a corny mess like all the other genre caveman movies had been.
Yeah. Okay.
But this one was taking a serious dramatic swing at a caveman story, which was rare at the time.
Not just rare. I can't think of another movie like this
Unique
before
at the time,
or
yeah.
after.
There's one before that I can think of.
Yeah.
But but we'll talk about it in a second. It took most of the cast around 5 hours each day to be fully made up. Circus elephants were trained and costumed to portray mammoths. Upon its release in France in 1981, it was nominated for 6 César Awards, which are the French Oscars, for screenplay, music, cinematography, set design, and it won for director and film.
Sorry, just to go back. I'm surprised that they were able to get elephants to tolerate having that much fur glued to their faces.
Yeah, I don't think regular film use elephants would have been as tolerant of it, but circus elephants are more tolerant because
Of all the abuse.
they're just abused into
Yeah.
a sedated state of like barely being able to move.
Well, yeah, and actually, I'm just wondering if they didn't have to sedate them, because I mean, putting that much fur on them seems
And
unpleasant.
well,
Yeah.
you look at the banthas from Star Wars.
But those
77.
aren't. There's no animals under those, right? Aren't those
I
like
think-
fully puppeteered by humans?
The banthas? Thought that they were elephants.
I don't know.
Googling.
But I think for some of the inserts on the heads of these mammoths,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was real.
Yeah, no. For the very close up of the eye.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree.
It didn't look like it was.
Yeah, it's definitely not an actual organism.
Oh yeah, there's elephants under there. That's crazy looking.
That's pretty cool. In the U.S., it won the Oscar for Best Makeup. The film was so financially successful that Annaud was offered the opportunity to helm a pair of sequels to be titled Quest for Water and Quest for Iron, and he declined. Probably because those are terrible names for the next one.
But also, I've seen this one, so do I really need to see any others?
But it literally sounds like you just asked a kid what you should call the sequel to a movie called Quest for Fire. Like,
Yeah,
they
Quest
just
for
picked
Air?
2 other things that you can quest for, and they were like, do those ones. And also, it's like, if they literally just discovered fire, they're not going to discover iron in the same lifetime. A year after the film's release in America, Iron Maiden released their album Peace of Mind with a song entitled Quest for Fire based on the events of the film, with one glaring anachronism in the song's very first line. While this may play fast and loose with some of the anthropological and historical details, they at least managed not to imply in the film that men and dinosaurs ever coexisted, which was a very common thing in other caveman movies. At least one home video release includes subtitles which translate the caveman grunts of the characters into a loose interpretation of the dialogue, but I couldn't find that dialogue track. I believe this is our 5th film to feature cavemen front and center. Do you guys recall the other 4?
Oh my gosh. Caveman?
Caveman's 1.
I'm gonna say Trog.
Trog's 1.
Oh, I got another one.
Go for it.
Altered States.
I'll call that a half point.
Okay.
That wasn't one of my 4. One of them is the other serious one I could think of. And then the other one is a parody of that serious one.
Was it gonna be like 2001?
2001: A Space Odyssey. And then the parody of that would be...
The opening of History of the World.
Yeah. But I would say that the caveman sequence in 2001 is the most serious, straightforward portrayal of cavemen on film before this film.
Yeah, but it's not like the main plot. I was trying to think of movies where the main plot.
Well,
was
they're
like
the only thing on screen for the first like half an hour of the movie.
Okay.
We start with an opening crawl. 80,000 years ago, man's survival in a vast uncharted land depended on the possession of fire. For those early humans, fire was an object of great mystery. Since no one had mastered its creation, fire had to be stolen from nature. It had to be kept alive, sheltered from wind and rain, guarded from rival tribes. Fire was a symbol of power and a means of survival. The tribe who possessed fire possessed life. In the first shot, we pan across a wide canyon and we see a flickering pinprick of light in the distance, the glow of a small fire. Moving closer, we see a small camp at the mouth of a cave, and a prehistoric man credited as Amoukar, played by Ron Perlman, is tasked with keeping the campfire going. He chews on leaves and listens to the snarling of a nearby pack of wolves. He collects a flaming stick from the pit to throw at them and ward them off, and it works. In a now-banned version of the film, the flaming torch strikes one of the wolves dead on, and it runs out of frame with its fur fully ablaze.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't think it was on purpose, but that
Oopsies.
happened.
What? You shouldn't throw real fire at real animals.
Fine. Deeper in the cave, we see the rest of Amoukar's tribe sleeping while he keeps watch. This is the Ulam tribe. They all have protruding brows and prominent body hair, and they are all cloaked in rudimentary animal fur clothing. Apparently, a lot of these costumes were authentic, untreated skins, and the film's set designer actually contracted anthrax from handling them.
Oh.
What? Is that
God.
that's a thing?
Yes.
That's where we get
It
anthrax?
occurs naturally from untreated animal flesh.
Where did they get untreated animal skins?
Animals.
Touche.
They don't come treated.
No, but I would think if I am a person who has to deck out this set with animal furs, I'm going to go to
A furrier?
a furrier.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to somebody who deals
I'm
in
going
furs.
to go to a furry.
And they're going to
Honestly.
be they're going to be treated.
I need all your best costumes, furry friend.
Unless they went out and hunted animals themselves and skinned these things.
You got to be authentic.
If there's a little flesh still hanging off
Yeah.
of it, that's going to look a lot
Just
better.
a snack for you. The camera settles on the faces of two cavemen. I'm going to pronounce this Naoh. It's like Noah with the vowels backward. That's how he's credited, but I don't think anyone says his name in the movie. Naoh, played by Everett McGill, and Aghoo, played by El-Kadi. We see another bald-headed caveman crouched like Schiegl beside a small handheld fire stored in a makeshift lantern. He blows on the fire to stoke the flames, and another caveman watches him in awe. In the morning, Amoukar and Naoh hear branches breaking near the camp, and we see another tribe approaching covertly. Their faces are less evolved from apes, and they're covered head to toe in natural Sasquatch-style fur, more like the ape men at the start of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The credits refer to this tribe as the Wagaboo, which feels racist to say for some reason, even though it's a fictional tribe. More cavemen wander out of the cave to sniff at the air for signs of intruders, but nothing happens here. Later, the cavemen are cooking animal meat over the flame, and some sharpen wooden spears with stones. They drink marrow from animal bones and chew on each other's hair. 3 cave women move out into the trees to drink from a nearby stream, and a caveman follows to take advantage of them bending over at the water's edge. The furrier Wagaboo tribe take this moment to attack, and the Ulam cave women unleash a barrage of rocks on the invaders. The rapist caveman abandons them, running back to his cave, and their collective screams summon more of their tribe to the fight. Just as they exit the cave, they are surprised with an avalanche of rocks and wood from the ledge above it. The Wagaboo tribe have them surrounded. As the fight rages outside, the bald Ulam collects his little bone lantern and takes it further and further into the cave. One Wagaboo warrior grips for dear life to the top of a sheer rock face, and more Ulam above him pulverize his fingers with a large rock. One invader sneaks up on Naoh, but steps on a smoldering piece of wood and screams in pain, giving himself away. Naoh spins and stabs the Wagaboo tribesman through the mouth and out the back of his head.
It just reminded me of History of the World where he drops the rock.
Both sides suffer many losses, but at the end of the battle, the Wagaboo seem to have taken over the cave. The wolves Amoukar kept at bay move in to gnaw at the victims of this slaughter, and the Ulam lead a limping retreat through the woods. Another pack of wolves pick off all the stragglers as they travel. They pause to catch their breaths halfway across a wide stretch of foggy swampland. On the horizon, they spot the bald Ulam carrying the mobile flame, and they rejoice. They start prying up grass to burn in desperate need of warmth. Unfortunately, before they're able to ignite a new fire, the last spark of their surviving ember burns out, and all seems lost. The tribe's elder selects 3 cavemen from their survivors, Naoh, Amoukar, and Aghoo, and sends them on the titular quest for fire.
Yeah, there was one caveman though who was like trying to like, I should go. I should be the one to do this.
And they were like, no, you stay here. The 3 walk for days through an enormous valley, and one day encounter a family of big cats. These are actually ligers, the offspring of a male lion and tigress, and they've been outfitted with false teeth that protrude from their mouths like those typically associated with smilodons, aka saber-toothed tigers. They were trained for months to walk around wearing the fake teeth, and after a while they could even eat comfortably wearing them.
While they're traveling, it's very interesting to watch like the scenery change.
Yeah.
Because they start off in a Dagobah style swamp.
Right.
Then they're like wandering through like a Tatooine style rocky valley, and then they end up in Endor, which is funny because Endor hadn't even been filmed yet.
Yeah, there you go. I should mention also that any of these wide shots are 100% practically shot. There's no opticals. There's no combining of 2 shots. All of it's 100% real the whole time.
Yeah, and that actually really struck me about the film, essentially what you're saying, Richard, is like, so you're saying this is all filmed in Kenya, right?
Some of it's Scotland and some of it's Kenya.
Oh, some of it's Scotland.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say the variety.
I think the marshes are all Scotland.
Yeah,
The variety of landscapes is what kind of struck me, because and even within what I think
For
was
sure.
Kenya, I was like, I didn't realize how many different styles of landscape they have
Yeah.
here.
Speaking of eating, the cats spot the trio of fire questers and chase them to a small tree, the only one in this region. Naoh, Amoukar, and Aghoo climb to the top and spend literally days in its branches waiting out the saber-toothed ligers below. They start eating the leaves of the tree, and we jump forward in time to the branches fully stripped of their leaves. One morning, Amoukar falls from the tree in his sleep and scrambles back up the trunk, only to realize the cats have moved on and they are safe again. Walking the next day, they see deer and find nests full of eggs to eat. Amoukar is hogging the eggs, and when Aghoo tries to steal one, Amoukar smashes it in his hand.
Seems like an inefficient way to eat eggs, because
Yeah.
he's like poked a hole in the top of
He's
it.
just sticking his thumb
and then
in.
he's sticking his finger in. I'm like, why wouldn't you just chuck the whole thing in your mouth?
This isn't a fucking Cadbury egg.
Just shoot it. Just down it,
While they fight, Naoh sits up in shock when he spots a billowing smokestack in the distance. Fire is not far now. By the time they reach the source of the smoke, the fire is out, and they sniff and taste the campfire's cold ashes. They bathe themselves in the powder and even munch a bit on the cooked meat left behind until Naoh and Aghoo pull a human skull out of the powder, and Amoukar realizes that he has human flesh in his mouth. He throws it away and spits out what he can. At first, I assumed this was actually the aftermath of a funeral ceremony, but we'll learn shortly that the Ulam trio are on a much more dangerous trail. Later, we see them fighting with buzzards over an animal corpse. That night, they sneak up on another campfire started by a red-haired cannibal tribe. We know they're cannibals because they still have several human-looking captives strung up on sticks for storage. This is the Kazam tribe.
Yeah, and one of them has already got an arm hacked off.
Yeah, they're like eating
yeah.
hands and stuff.
He's like, yeah, so they're suspended, like they're tied to this log, but one of his arms is just dangling half gone.
Yeah. These humans look the most evolved so far, with negligible body hair and a fully modern skull shape. These are credited as members of the Ivaka tribe. They are both nude, but fully coated in paint.
Sorry, to be clear, the ones that are strung up as
Yes.
food are the
Yes,
ones that are
correct.
the most advanced here.
In the morning, some of the Ivaka prisoners show signs of life, and one, credited as Ika and portrayed by Rae Dawn Chong, is chewing at her restraints to escape, while the Kazam tribe all around her idly chew on the recognizable remains of her fellow tribesmen. The Ulam stage a distraction to draw the Kazam away from their camp, and while the camp is abandoned, Naoh rushes in to steal their fire, but the torch blows out immediately. Or maybe the stick wasn't even on fire that he took. I couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
He realizes there are other Kazams still there and fights off against their biggest warrior in a club fight. When the bigger Kazam warrior accidentally catches his club in the gnarled stump of a tree, Naoh is able to finish him off. A smaller Kazam tribesman tackles him to the ground and bites him hard in the dick. Naoh screams, as one would, and bashes the Kazam tribesman over the head with a rock before seeming to pass out from the pain. Ika, the Ivaka captive, breaks free and wakes Naoh with her screams as she runs away, and he collects 3 more torches before leaving the camp. Naoh finds his fellow Ulams, and as they leave together, Ivaka follows close behind, despite them shouting at her to go away. It actually reminds me a lot of the Jayla character from Star Trek Beyond. I wonder if there wasn't some inspiration there.
Oh, yeah,
Where
kind
you
of.
have Bones and Spock are like in this canyon and they don't know where they are because their ship crash landed, and this local woman is just like following them around, doing stuff around them. When the men stop to rest at their next camp, she tries again to approach them. She offers to take a look at Naoh's injury and seems to relieve him off camera somehow, either with the application of medicinal herbs or other means that we don't see. That night, the 4 of them sit around the campfire. In the morning, we see that members of the Kazam tribe have traced them to this new camp. Aghoo spots them first and warns the others to run for it. They collect the lantern with the newly stolen flame inside. Amoukar does some intimidating moves as a show of strength, but the Kazam are not frightened until a pair of woolly mammoths wander up from behind the Ulam. Everyone but the Ulam seem appropriately terrified. Naoh, though, collects a large bundle of dried grass and approaches the largest of the mammoths with his arm outstretched. After eyeing him quizzically, it collects the grass from his hand to eat, and then, as if paid for this express purpose, The mammoths stampede around the Ulam and Ika to chase off the Kazam tribesmen. That night, sitting around the fire again, Amoukar keeps looking over at Ika wiggling in her sleep and makes a move to mate with her, but she screams and scampers away toward Naoh. He takes this as an invitation and mounts her himself, but she fights against him the whole time. Rae Dawn Chong has said that this was obviously the worst day on set by a long shot, and she was forced to endure 9 takes of this simulated rape, and her back got all scratched up and everything in the process. The next day, the Ulam cavemen are cresting a hill away from her as Ika pleads with them to turn around and follow her to the Avaka village. Her cries seem to fall on deaf ears. Later, we see Naoh chipping a rock into a sharp tool when more rocks come tumbling down around them and bonk Amoukar on the head. Ika laughs like a hyena.
Yeah, everyone's just staring at her like, head injuries are not a joke, Ika.
And later they realize, oh no, they totally are. She spends that night resting under Naoh's arms, but when he wakes in the morning, he finds her gone, and just barely catches her disappearing at the edge of sight toward her own tribe. They hike several days and come to an abandoned camp with a still smoking fire pit.
Hold on. Before that, Naoh mopes around so dejected. He's like smelling the ground where she was lying.
Well, that's what I was,
and like pulls it towards him to cuddle it. It's like, oh no.
Poor guy. Naoh sniffs at the grass around the camp and seems to catch the scent of Ika. After a short break here, Naoh tries to lead his friends down the mountainside, but they wait up here for him to return. They're like, you go find her. We're just going to hang out here for a second. He sees a large shape huddled between some trees and mistakes it for a beast. He hurls a spear through it, but it's a thatched roof hut, and the weapon pierces right through it. I was worried there was going to be like a dead person inside of it that he just killed.
Well, I think it's meant to be some kind of decoy, because it's got fake horns and stuff on the front too.
Right. He's fascinated by the structure, and inside the abandoned hut, he finds fired clay pottery.
Yeah, he has this look on his face after this point of like, oh man, are we the primitive ones?
Wow.
Like he's like looking at it like, we didn't make this.
Yeah.
I don't even know what this is.
Naoh finds a larger collection of maybe 20 huts, but as he approaches on foot, he begins sinking into the swamp around the small village. The Anaka inhabitants of the village are drawn out by his screams and begin tossing spears at the mostly submerged Ulam until Ika appears and begs them not to murder this man, who rescued her from the Kazam tribe. The tribe helps the Ulam out of the mud, and he is presented to the village elder. The old man inspects Naoh's injury, or maybe just his dick. And that night, Naoh is presented with a full meal and a woman from the tribe as company in his own private hut.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was literally checking if he was still functional.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to bring in outside
it's like the
DNA.
island. They're like, there's too many of our offspring are kind of walking at a weird angle. We need some fresh DNA. They instruct him to have his way with the woman, and she raises her butt in the air for him. When he finally complies, the men applaud and laugh from all around his hut. Ika can hear this going on and looks upset from her own hut.
Well, I think it's interesting because she doesn't do this at first because that's not how her tribe does it.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, oh, wait, I have to be like these animals.
Yeah.
And she turns around and puts her butt in the air. And everyone outside the hut's laughing at this. Like, okay.
Because this tribe had invented missionary.
They're the blame.
They're civilized.
Up on the mountain, Amoukar and Aghoo are cuddled under a small tree waiting for their friend to return. As the village sleeps, Ika sneaks through and curls up beside Naoh, but she's caught here immediately and shouted back to her own hut. In the morning, Naoh is showered with copious gifts, and then goes on a hike with 2 members of the Avaka tribe, where he's given the greatest treasure of all, knowledge.
Knowledge was their treasure.
One of the Avaka villagers clears a space on a cave floor and lays out a piece of wood with notches in it. Then he takes out a stick and he presses it hard into one of the notches, spinning it quickly between 2 palms. When it starts smoking a bit, Naoh is hypnotized. The villager wraps the tiny spark in loose dried grass and blows on it to grow the ember, and Naoh can't believe his eyes. The ember grows and grows until, tucked into a larger bundle of dried grass, it ignites, and fire is born right here in front of Naoh. He's moved to tears by this revolutionary demonstration. We cut back to the village and learn that Naoh's impatient friends have descended from the mountain to find him and have become stuck in the same mud pit that he did.
the hard cut to them just going,
Really wonderful. Naoh laughs to see his friends again, and that night, Amoukar moves about the camp, knocking Avoca tribesmen unconscious and stealing all their shit. She's like, these are cool. This is neat.
It's my signature move.
And that's all I need. And this paddle ball. He collects Naoh from his hut, and they all leave together. Naoh's face is now painted like the Avoca, and he seems sedated somehow.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to go.
Right, but he also seems like out of it, like he doesn't really understand what's happening. So Amoukar has to carry the man over his shoulders.
He does a really good fireman's carry.
Yeah.
Like putting him back, pulling him up. I was like, oh, that's great. Bravo.
See, but okay, so I took it as he doesn't want to go because he likes this new knowledge and ways of this tribe, and he wants to stay. They think they know better, and don't they knock him out?
Yeah.
But they're like, we have a mission, so you're coming with us.
Yeah.
Ika spots them leaving and once again joins their party. The next day, Ika uses ashes to mark her skin, which I guess is a way of showing that your tribe has like copious ashes. Like, oh, we could create fire. We don't even give a shit. That's why we're all covered in ash all the time, to show off that we have fire. Amoukar wakes in a tree and drops a rock on Gau's head as a joke. Everybody laughs about it, including Gau. Even after he reaches up to his head and finds it bleeding profusely.
One of those good old concussion laughs.
He's like, oh shit, that's funny. All my juice is coming out. The group stop for the night to wait out the rain, and Naoh and Ika move deeper into a cave to mate. Amoukar and Gau watch them from the sidelines, and Amoukar places a hand on Gau's thigh as if to propose a similar activity, but Gau hisses him away. The next morning, Ika is down by a stream and spots a new tribe across the water.
Well, this is also where Ika teaches Naoh the more civilized version of sex, and you see Amoukar and Gau looking at him like, you're doing it wrong, idiot.
What a dumb. Is he using her front butt? What a weirdo. The next morning, Ika is down by a stream and spots a new tribe across the water. She screams, and the Ulam caveman come to her aid. Together, Gau and Ika descend into a cave to hide from the approaching tribe, who look the most like the Ulam of all the tribes we've seen so far.
Well, I think this is the guy who tried to take over leadership when they sent away Naoh.
Oh, is it?
It's like the old, because he's got the old man's staff.
Okay, because he looks a little different than the Ulam because their hair is darker and their eyes are darker.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was just a makeup choice to differentiate. In the deepest corner of the hideout cave, Gau and Ika find a baby bear, which is just about the worst thing you can find, because not only does it mean that there's a mama bear somewhere nearby, but she has you cornered in a cave. Tony Stark built this in a cave.
Do you remember the last time we were in a cave and it turned out it was a bear in it?
Heart beeps?
Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's a better one than I had.
What did you have?
I was thinking of Windwalker.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's one of the 15 times the old man died in that movie. He fell into a bear cave and he raped to death by a bear. I assume. They don't show it, but he just wakes up like under the bear's arm.
Scarface style.
Just then, Mama Bear pounces on Gau's back. He struggles against the bear as Ika runs to get Amoukar and Naoh, but it's doing a lot of damage. When his friends arrive, Gau is drenched in blood and barely climbing out of the cave to escape the bear's clutches. His friends find him on the ground and try to carry him away when they encounter the nearby tribe, who argue for possession of the fire that the Ulam cavemen are still carrying in the mobile lantern. The Ulam find themselves surrounded again when spears soar over their heads from behind. Naoh lures them away by placing the flame on top of a large rock, and Amoukar readies his weapons for attack. Now, I don't know why he hasn't been using this the whole time.
Well, I think he got this. He got these from.
Oh, he stole this from the Ivaka.
Yeah, when he was walking out, he took a bunch of stuff with him. Yeah,
and he figured out how it worked real quick. He manages to spear and arrow the enemy tribe rapid fire, and they are all quickly neutralized. Sometime later, the trio are reunited with their own tribe and race across the shallow water toward them with the lantern in hand. The bald tribesman collects the lantern, but before he gets it to the camp, he trips in the water and submerges the flame, putting it out. Credits. No.
As they were all like crowding around this flame, I'm like, like it'd be funny if somebody dropped it in the water.
Right.
Oh wait, that's what happened.
Produced by Robert B. Wide. The entire tribe lets loose a fury of whoops and screams, furious at the bald tribesman for his mistake, but Naoh addresses the tribe with a short speech. And the only words I can kind of make out are he's talking about atah, which seems to be their word for fire, and he suggests for the first time creating atah from scratch.
Yeka, no, plus, atra, sis, naka atra.
Like, we're going to make fire. He sits down and he tries his best to emulate what he saw the men from the Avaka tribe doing with their sticks and notched wood. His tribe are mostly confused by the demonstration. Ika offers to take over the process, and eventually, smoke rises from the wood. Kindling is applied to keep the heat alive, and the tribe start losing their shit around her, smacking their own heads in disbelief. We hard cut to a raging fire that night, and Amoukar tells the tribe the stories of their adventures by firelight. Another tribe member licks Gau's wounds from the bear attack, and he still seems pained but happy.
He's kind of like pulling like a permanent concussion face.
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
His jaw's like all to the side.
He looks like Lightfoot a little bit. We end with the same shot of the fire at the mouth of the cave from the start, but outside, Naoh watches the moon in the sky at night, and Ika joins him. As she does, she shows him her swollen belly, and he caresses it gently. The camera pans across the same panorama as the first shot, but darker now, and we see the same pinprick of fire on the horizon. We fade to black for the credits. That's Quest for Fire, everybody.
I was surprised how much I liked this movie.
I think I'd seen this before, but I liked it, and I still do like it. I enjoyed this a lot. I love the photography of it because it's all so practically done and on these beautiful locations. And also, you can just tell that it was a huge pain in the ass, the work that they put into this movie to get every shot and making these characters walk barefoot for miles through rocky landscape. But it looks really great. And I love that without any language, they're still able to formulate jokes and make comedy with it.
I don't disagree with you guys in any way about what you've said about this film, but it's just okay, because will I ever watch this movie again? Absolutely not. There's just not enough happening here for me. Like, there just needs to be more to it, because it's a slice of life movie technically.
Yeah, that's true. For sure.
So it's just not my cup of tea.
I had never seen it before, and I really enjoyed it. It was very simple. It has to be, like you said, because there's no real dialogue, and even the dialogue there is, it's meaningless because you don't know really what they're saying. But
thanks though to Anthony Burgess for coming up with a whole language.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you said, Jesse, that was like, I don't think that was really needed. You could just, because I think how many words are actually spoken.
I think there is some authenticity to it though, because like specifically the Avaka language, when Rae Dawn Chong is talking, it doesn't sound like she's doing gibberish talk. It sounds like she's speaking a language I don't understand. And she does such a great job with it. She has this sort of chirpy lilt to everything she says that makes her sound like almost like a bird, but like definitely like monkey-esque, the way that she's like doing these weird little high-pitched squeaks at the end of her words. Yeah, it sounds like when you hear like monkeys in the jungle and stuff like that. And it's like, it's really impressive that they were able to find like a halfway point between human language and whatever came before that.
Yeah.
But I really like the way her voice sounds in this movie. I think she's doing a phenomenal job.
I do feel like, though, I feel bad for like the casting call of like, we need some really ape-looking guys.
Well, and the second they saw Ron Perlman, they're like, done.
Well, his point too at the end of that same section of his book is that he's like, I looked around the room and I was like, these are all like fucking weird-looking guys that they clearly brought them in because they were like, they looked at the headshot and they were like, yeah, that guy could be a caveman. But he said he was definitely the hottest one there. So he knew that it's like, all right, they probably want someone who looks like a caveman, but you'd still probably want to fuck. And that means I'm going to be in this movie.
Later, he'll be a lion that you probably want to fuck.
Yeah, and a beast.
Oh, that was the one. Yeah.
He's
a lion.
Well, no,
he looks lion-like. It's very cat-like.
Sure.
Yeah, very cat-like.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's a Hellboy that you want to fuck. For some reason, all of Ron Perlman's characters are people that I want to fuck for some reason. That's strange. Anyway, no need to dwell. Like Drive. Remember him in Drive?
I do remember.
He's just
him in
Ron
Drive.
Perlman in that. But like a Ron Perlman that you'd want to fuck. Anyway.
It's redundant. Haven't we established that's redundant?
Oh my goodness. Anyway, yeah, so that's Quest for Fire. I'm glad that they didn't do those other two sequels because you had the whole story here.
I mean, unless you did it like Once Upon a Time in the West and Once Upon a Time in America, where there's just such a huge divide of time that's separating it.
Right.
Like if you do Quest for Iron, like it would have to be already a civilization.
But
like
even
early
then,
civilization.
Is the Quest for Iron story going to be any different than this is an element that exists in nature that we used to have to steal, and then we learned how to make it for ourselves? The end. Like that's the whole point of the story, is that it's about the advancement of the species and learning how to utilize these tools and create things on our own rather than relying on lightning or lava to create them for us. So I feel like you already told the story of cavemen getting one step closer to the modern day, and it wouldn't have been necessary, especially the quest for water, because it's like there's water everywhere. Like there's water all over the place. Like Nestle hasn't taken over the planet yet. So if you're going to do Quest for Water, it has to take place in like 2090.
But I think that like, yeah, you're totally right. The story was kind of told and you don't need to tell it again with other elements, but there might be something there.
Quest for wheel. Quest for iPod.
But aren't they kind of cheating even in this one? Whereas one tribe has actually already discovered how to create it. So, like, it's one
You're saying that we're missing out on the initial discovery of how to make it?
Yeah. Like, they didn't discover how to make it. They just took it from somebody else who discovered how to make it.
Yeah.
They took a seminar.
But at least, but it's still, I think, an important difference that this is knowledge that is being communicated throughout a species.
But on the flip side of that, as far as like because this is all about the evolution and the dominance of which ape descendant is going to take over, and it's like they weren't supposed to, because they were supposed to die out when they're fire because they don't know how to make it.
But I think that they are rewarded for doing the right thing, and even though when they saved Ika, they weren't trying to save Ika. That was interesting too. That when she breaks free on her own and follows them around. They didn't try to rescue her, and they didn't stage a distraction so that she could escape. They did it so they could steal the fire from that camp. But I was also reading stories about how they believe that before prehistoric man had discovered how to create fire on their own, that it was stolen from places like lightning striking trees or lava coming in contact with wood. And they would have to keep a fire going for a century. Like generations would keep the same fire going. Yeah. Because they didn't know how to make it on their own.
The pressure. That's crazy.
Right? And there had to be someone awake at all times.
Yeah. So that's what kind of makes me mad at the beginning of this movie, is that they let the fire get so low.
Yeah.
It was like, no. You need to keep...
You can't go below a half tank, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
This is super dangerous.
I mean, and you have to be nomadic because of that. Because you have to keep clearing out dry brush from areas.
Eventually you're going to run out of trees.
Especially in like the savanna areas where, like we saw, there was only one tree.
Yeah.
And they were hiding from these.
You have to move to a new chunk before you run out of wood.
Yeah.
That's Minecraft speak. But yeah, I really like this. I like the story that it's telling, and I feel like it's a pretty original thing. Honestly, there's even more similarities I'm now realizing to the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where knowledge is being imparted on one tribe over another tribe, which is allowing them to evolve to the next level.
But that was indeed, in 2001 it's a little different, because that is indeed actual evolution occurring overnight.
Right, yeah.
Because they walk more upright, and like that's a little bit of a different change.
Yeah. But I also think that the way they are portrayed in this film, the Kazam tribe and the Wagaboo tribe could never have learned this information from the Ivaka, because they were not patient and peaceful. They're just like perpetually violent. And so they never would have been invited on this walk to learn this. So it's actually, the Ulam deserve this knowledge by nature of acting peacefully with this other tribe and having saved one of them inadvertently.
Until Rob Perlman comes in, starts fucking their shit up.
So it's like, all right, this is mine and this is mine. Look at all this shit I invented.
It's like I'll Rochambeau you for it.
Yeah.
Boom.
He's a regular prehistoric Thomas Edison. It's like, yeah, fire's pretty cool, but look at this thing I made. I can just huck darts at people from across the lake. Yeah. This is a big thumbs up for me.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up.
It's a thumbs up for me for sure.
What are we thinking Letterboxd?
Even though it's a thumbs up, it's not super high on my list because, again, I don't think it has a lot of rewatchability.
Sure.
So I have it at 17 out of 23. It is below One from the Heart and above The Amateur.
I have it pretty high. I have it at number 4.
Okay.
This is the first time I feel like I've put one up that high in a while. So it puts it below A Stranger Is Watching, but above Venom.
I have it at number 6, which is just under Cannery Row and just above The Border.
You guys are making me feel like a jerk.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're basically cavemen, so I feel like we're related
you
more to the
guys
story.
really identify the stories about yourselves. I get it. Representation in film is important.
Yeah. Basically, me, fuckable caveman. What?
It was like when I had a flat tire. The first thing I do was like, I gotta come to Jessie. She's gonna know what to do.
Quest for Wheel. Our director here was Jean-Jacques Annaud. This was his third feature after Black and White in Color and Hothead, but it was a breakout success for him. He would later direct The Name of the Rose, 7 Years in Tibet, and Enemy at the Gates. The writer here was Gérard Brach. He has a story credit on The Fearless Vampire Killers, What?, The Tenant, and so far on the show Tess for Polanski. Those are all Polanski titles. Later he writes The Name of the Rose for Annaud, and a lot of French titles I didn't recognize. The novelist here was J.H. Rosny Sr. This is the only feature credit on IMDb for that pen name. The music here is from Philippe Sard. Before this, he had scored Polanski's The Tenant, and in the 80s, Tess. We heard his work last season in Ghost Story, and after that, again, many French titles I was not immediately familiar with, though he did score Gregory Hines' killer robot movie, Eve of Destruction. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
It's on my Plex. It's weird. The cinematographer here was Claude Augustini. Not much else I knew. The editor here was Yves Langlois. After this, he cuts Scanners 2, The New Order, Scanners 3, The Takeover, The Life Force Experiment, Highlander, The Final Dimension, and a Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman TV movie. Everett McGill played Naoh. We've seen him as Eddie Caldwell in Brubaker. Next, he is Stilgar in Lynch's Dune, and he becomes a regular collaborator of Lynch's from there. He's in Silver Bullet, License to Kill, Twin Peaks as Ed Hurley in the show and movie, and the sequel series. He's in People Under the Stairs, Under Siege 2, and he's Tom in The Straight Story. Ron Perlman played Amoukar. This was his first film. Later, he appears in The Ice Pirates, Name of the Rose. He was the Beast on Beauty and the Beast's TV series opposite Linda Hamilton. He voices Sergeant characters on Bonkers and The Animaniacs. He's in City of Lost Children for Jean-Pierre Jeunet. He voiced Bruce Banner/Hulk in several animated series in the 90s. He reunited with Jeunet for Alien Resurrection. He narrates the Fallout games, or he at least does a voice in all of them. He narrates the first couple, and then he's like a news anchor or something in the next few. He's in Titan AE, Enemy at the Gates, that killer elevator movie, The Shaft. He's in Blade 2, Star Trek Nemesis, all on the way to perhaps his best-known role as Hellboy in Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy films. He does tons of TV show and video game voices. He was Clay Morrow on Sons of Anarchy. He was in Drive. He was on Archer. He's a Lich on Adventure Time. And last year, he reprised the character for Adventure Time Fiona and Cake, which is really wonderful, and I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it.
The Lich. It's like a reoccurring threat.
Nicholas Cody played Gaw. This was his first feature. Later, he was Nikolai Grodzki in MacGyver episode Thief of Budapest. He's the one who goes, MacGyver! as he crosses the border. That character returns the following season, played by a different actor, and Cody was also a gorilla in Congo. Rae Dawn Chong played Ika. This was her first major role after director Annaud discovered her on a California beach. Later, she appears as Arnold's love interest in Commando, and as Squeak in Spielberg's The Color Purple. She appears in multiple Mick Jagger music videos. She was C. Thomas Howell's girlfriend in Soul Man and was briefly married to the actor. She's Corallo in Tales from the Dark Side segment Lover's Vow. She's the daughter of Tommy Chong, and she's also the subject of a song by one of my favorite musician comedians, Stephen Lynch, called RDC.
Rae Dawn. Chong. Baby, won't you hear my song? I have loved you for so long.
Gary Schwartz played Rouka, one of the Ulam tribe. He was Bravo Fox in 62 episodes of Zoobly Zoo. He's Dean Howell in Teen Witch. Top that. He does voices on the Super Mario Super Show, Fern Gully, the Left 4 Dead video games, and in several Star Wars games as Gus Tuno. Kurt Schlegel played Faum from the Ulam tribe. He was Keto in 79 episodes of a late 60s series called Strange Paradise. Bibi Caspari played Gammla from the Ulam tribe. We saw him last as a mime in Circle of Two. Peter Elliott played Meeker of the Ulam tribe. This was his first credit. He's also an ape in Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. A Wheeler in Return to Oz. He's King Kong in the 1986 King Kong Lives. He's a mime in Gorillas of the Mist. He's a gorilla in Congo, a bear, and a panda on The Mighty Boosh, a gorilla in the 2006 The Omen, a gorilla in the 2013 Tarzan, and his most recent credit is as Lucy in the 2021 TV movie Lucy the Human Chimp. Matt Berman played Mora from the Ulam tribe. We've seen him in our minisode review of Hog Wild. He's back later on the Friday the 13th series, searching for Bobby Fischer, the Ref, Junior, Urban Legend, and most recently as the UNMC Supply Sergeant on The Expanse, though his credits on that series seem to be mostly stunt work. Joy Bushell was another of the Ulam tribe. She was Sally in Pick Up Summer and Pet in Terror Train. She's back this season as Donna Blake in Humongous, and later The Fly and Look Who's Talking. George Booza was in the Kazam tribe. We just saw him as one of the terrorists in The Amateur that reminded Jesse of David Harbour. Later, he's Mean Gene in Meatballs 3, and in the 94 X-Men video game Children of the Atom, he voiced Colossus, Omega Red, and Juggernaut. Later, in the animated Spider-Man and X-Men series, he provides the voice of Dr. Hank McCoy, aka the Beast, and even his IMDb photo resembles Kelsey Grammer's portrayal of the character. He was so connected to the material that he was even brought in to play a trucker in the opening scenes of 2000's X-Men film, which I believe is the earliest Marvel film with a tangential link to the canon MCU, since both have featured Patrick Stewart's Professor X. Booza's latest credit is the reprisal of the Hank McCoy voice for Disney Plus's resurrected X-Men animated series, X-Men 97, so if they're both canon, he might technically play two parts in the MCU, a rare distinction. And from what I hear, that X-Men 97 show is wonderful.
I've been waiting for it all to be
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the same. Giant Haystacks played another member of the Kazam tribe. That's the guy's name. He's Luke McMasters, but he wrestled under the name Giant Haystacks. He was a professional wrestler. Giant Haystacks was his name in Britain, but he did perform in Canada and the US as the Loch Ness Monster. Ty played the Woolly Mammoth uncredited. This is the first feature IMDb credit for Ty the Elephant, who shows up later in Big Top Pee-wee, Beastmaster 2, the 1994 Jungle Book. He's Bo Tat in Operation Dumbo Drop, Vera in Larger Than Life, Shep in George of the Jungle, and Rosie in Water for Elephants. Prolific film career for Ty the Elephant. I think that's everything for Quest for Fire. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. If you enjoy what we're doing, consider giving us a review on iTunes. I don't think it helps visibility, but it's good for morale. And if you really like the show, maybe you should join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast for access to all our monthly 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. Patrons are currently choosing between The Apprentice of Duddy Kravitz, Death Wish, The Education of Sonny Carson, Flesh Gordon, Golden Needles, Gone in 60 Seconds, Mr. Majestic, My Name is Nobody, Savage Sisters, The Tamarind Seed, Uptown Saturday Night, and The White Dawn for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Barbarossa, which IMDb describes like so. An inexperienced farm boy hooks up with a legendary outlaw in Mexico, and both are soon on the run from the law, Mexican bandits, and two families bent on revenge. We leave you now with the trailer for Barbarossa.
Some legends are born.
You haven't got enough in your britches to pull the trigger on Barbarossa.
Some are made.
Never meant to kill August.
And some
Damn it, stop that.
are made for each other.
Take turns on this jackass.
Their relationship was based on understanding.
Oh, time to go. I'm gonna have to rob you. Get your money out.
Patience.
Shoot him, Carl, if you want to. We got time.
Forgiveness.
Get out of here. Let's go.
I had no idea she was your daughter. All we did was just talk.
And the feeling that no matter where they went,
Well, good morning to you, sir. Plan to kill me today?
They would always be wanted.
Kill her.
Papa wants you dead.
You're on my road, amigos.
You know who I am?
I know who you are.
We may be in trouble.
Universal Pictures presents Gary Busey,
What's the matter with me? Ain't I been good company?
Willie Nelson,
I ain't gonna lie to you, you know? I'm getting all wore out trying to keep you entertained.
Barbarossa, two friends,
Careful. You're kicking rocks all over
and
me.
the legend
You missed him.
that was bigger than both of
What the
them.
hell you doing? Already been down there.